Thanks. Just wanted to make sure.
No.
Welcome, friends. As people drop in, if you could put your name in the chat with kind of where you work and one thing you might hope to learn looking at that title that John helped us.
Yeah, Lori, I left the other meeting to join this one, but you have to have the agenda to go back to the next session. Do you have that?
It's for kinder teacher. All of the courses really are going to be engaging all grade levels as well as all different disciplines.
Mike, you might want to mute everyone.
That would be John. Mr. Weisenfeld has the power.
Here's the link to the agenda to get back. I put it in the chat.
Yeah, so if you need to get back to another session, it'll be, the links are in the agenda.
Yep. Yeah, so we're watching the chat there. If you want to drop in, I can. Jenny, can you help me watch that chat? We have Jennifer here from Chihuahua School District. Can you pronounce that for me, Jennifer?
It's Chihuahua.
Chihuahua. I thought I did it wrong.
Chihuahua, and that's close to Spokane, right?
It's about 42 miles north of Spokane. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
You know, I'm gracious in the knowing that I can't pronounce things, so I appreciate your help. Welcome,
Franklin Pierce.
Linda. Welcome, Monica from Sela.
Ellensburg, Aberdeen, Sela, Rochester. So where is Rochester? I'm not familiar with that.
About 15 miles south of Olympia. So.
Okay, thank you.
There's two of us, so I guess we're both answering.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Jennifer.
Hello.
I know pretty much Eastern Washington. Anything before the pass, I know all those schools, but when you get over there, then I get confused. So thank you.
Well, thank you for spending time. Has the main session transitioned? Anybody leave from there? Did they transition yet? They did. Okay, so we'll get started. Thank you for sharing your information. The PowerPoint slides are very short and simple. Today is about listening to John and John's experience engaging students with a couple cool tips on using video. So I'm excited for him to share. Before we do, we have a really quick poll we want you to fill out that John might be able to use. So I'm going to open up a poll and it should show up on your screen. If you could respond to those 3 questions, we're going to collect a little bit of data for John about the context for which you are working. So fill that out and push the enter.
See lots of movement. They're doing a good job.
Yeah. So I don't know, is it showing, Jenny, the results on your screen?
As soon as I hit end poll, then it started showing.
Okay.
So if you have your poll up, make sure at the bottom of the screen that you hit end poll, and then it will show you the results.
So it looks like a lot of people have kids that might not be doing really well, John. So this might be a good audience for you. You know, sometimes kids fall behind and we need to intervene to help them. Lots of folks working in hybrid, some virtual.
Great.
Some high school folks, middle school, elementary.
Not much full-time in person, very small amount, which is expected during this time.
So John, that's your audience. Looking forward to having you help us learn.
Sounds great.
I'm going to sharing results. I'm going to stop sharing results and we're going to move on if everybody's had a chance to fill it out. So with that, looking at the kids on the screen, I remember in the day, like context for learning. If I think about Shannon's classroom or Lenny's classroom or Beth's classroom, we might have kids working in different spots around the classroom, right? With a book in a corner, learning in different spaces. Now our context is different. We have some hybrid things going on, some remote learning going on. So I want to honor and respect that, knowing that all of you are working really hard to support learners no matter what context they're facing. So I'm Mike Esping, I'm EST 123. Jenny, introduce yourself.
I'm Jenny Kelly. I also work at ESD 123 as a migrant academic coordinator and the early learning coordinator.
Good. And then John, I get to introduce John, and he's going to take and run with it. John, I met John, sometime this past summer. We connected, and he's very interested in helping people with remote learning. And he has a lot of experience with Microsoft Office tools, as well as different learning management platforms. So he has a background as I read his Vita, a very complicated title, something about software test engineer or something like that, and then he's been a teacher, physics teacher, math teacher. He's currently working at Pasco High School, and he has a real passion for ensuring kids are successful. And he has really creative ideas on how to reach out to them using video. So John, with that said, I'm going to stop my sharing, and I'm going to have you take over screen share and wow these people with some interesting ideas that they might walk away with today.
All right. One day I got an email that looked like this, and you might have gotten these, and you actually probably don't get as many of these as you'd like to get, which is a student that basically said, hey, Mr. Weisenfeld, is there anything I can do to raise my grade? And a lot of times if you're tired and not in your best frame of mind, your knee-jerk reaction is, turn in something or like come to class or come to Zoom. But as I got to thinking about it, I realized that a lot of times this is coming from a genuine place of they just don't know. There's too many options or too many things to do. So as I got to thinking about how we can use the tools that we've been kind of using, so Zoom and recording and getting information back to students, I thought, I'm just going to answer this email and type something out. And I thought, that just doesn't do it necessarily anymore. And as I got to thinking about it, I thought, well, why don't I answer these emails with short videos? And so what I'd like to do is show you the video that I created to answer this student. And what I want you to notice about the video, is there anything in the video that you think would be useful for you to know how to do, or you think would be especially motivating for your students? So what I'm going to do is make sure that I'm sharing the video and the sound so that people can see. All right, so I think sound is on, so please holler at me if sound doesn't come through. So here we go. It's about 2 minutes. Spare me 2 minutes. Hello, student. Hello, parent or guardian. I just wanted to show you a little bit about your grade. So what I have on my screen right now is your grade in my class, and it may not be the grade that you like or that you would want. And so I know that you have a tendency to maybe look at the assignments that have the most points and do that one first. However, that's not always effective, a strategy for you to try. And here's why. This first grade is for classwork. If you were to do all the classwork, ace it, like all that work that you've missed or haven't turned in yet, your grade would only go up a little bit. But there is another assignment in here that if you were to do a reasonable job on that assignment, your grade would be much greater. And so why is that? What's going on? Well, I'd like you to notice that there is an assessment here, and the assessments are weighted in this class much more than the daily work. And so what I would recommend is that you work on assessments or assignments for classes that are weighted more before you do just assignments that are worth more points. Once you know that assessments are weighted more, though, be careful, because there are assessments that even if you do an assessment, but if it's weighted less or has less points than another assessment, then your logic still applies, your reasoning still applies, that assignments that are worth more have more of an impact on your grade. So once again, please consider doing some of those assignments or some of those assessments for my class that will raise your grade. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, send me email, or let me know how I can help. All right. So would anybody like to tell me something they saw or something that was interesting about that?
So John, I would say as a parent, I'm just jumping in there. This is so nice. And if the parents can see it as well, because sometimes the kids get so far behind, they just kind of give up. So knowing that there's a place to start, I think is so imperative.
Good. Yeah. So I would send this to the student and I would CC their parent or guardian if I had an address. Yeah. Spanish subtitles, Beth noticed. Thanks, Beth. Perfect. How did I do that? That's what I'll tell you guys. I'll show you how to do. Thank you. Delise says that the visual and voice is great. Let me just show you a little bit about kind of my studio here, my teaching studio. Oh, the background is on. Ooh, whoa. All right.
Can you take your background off, John?
Yeah, I'm working on it. Okay, backgrounds.
While you're doing that, I noticed people are recognizing you're showing and telling. It seems personable, and I like what Courtney says. It feel like it almost mimics more of the actual conversation you'd have with a student.
Yep.
The video instead of an email that might be less personal. Good.
I get a lot of comments. Well, I noticed my lighting's really harsh. I've got just a bare light bulb there. I mean, I know I can get the fancy loops of neon or of LEDs and stuff, but no, the microphone really does help your sound, or a headphone with a microphone kind of close to it. And then a couple of monitors so I can see. So kind of a tablet for writing, and then a big monitor. And then here where you are, a big long screen portrait for chats, and so I can see a lot of stuff at once. And then my main screen is turned down in size so that when students watch a video from me on their small monitors, they're not trying to focus on a monitor that has a lot of real estate. That I noticed first off was it made it tough to communicate with them. So let me walk you through the steps for how I did this, and let me get back on this. My legit background. Okay, there we go.
And I just want to add really quick, John, before you get to that, just so a little background, John, the district and school that he works at has a very high poverty rate. So the kids are needing this help.
Yeah, so Pasco High is 70+% free and reduced. And that just means that there's a lot going on in their lives, and there may be many reasons why they're not focusing on work or not able to get enough work done, maybe for all their teachers. So here I'm showing you kind of my grade book. Oh, am I sharing the screen? Yeah, you can see this screen. Yeah, okay. And I'm hiding the name of the student. I'm doing this on a real student. So this is, I mean, not the one that emailed me. The one that emailed me took action, and with the help of a kick from mom or dad, basically came to Saturday school or did the work that was necessary to raise their grade. There's a whole bigger topic here, which is, do you have an assignment that can help students get above 0, right? So if you have a lot of students with 0, I like to say, hey, there's this magic assignment, which if you could do it, and maybe it's pretty well scaffolded, or maybe it's like the very basic standards for the class where you know that if they drill on that, they are still getting something. That's one tip. What I like to use is something called, or what we use in our district is something called Screencast-O-Matic. And so when I click this button here, it goes into record mode, and I can do this video with my screen and with my video cam. And then when I'm done, it just pops out a link. And so I don't know if you saw, but the link to the video that I showed you guys is just, the videos are saved up on the Screencast-O-Matic service. I think we pay a little bit more for that, but that's open to anybody with the link. And that's a little bit risky because I'm sharing private information or grade information with people. But I think if I keep the link between me and them, and I don't share it, then it's really up to them to protect their privacy on that link. And then I can go and delete it too pretty easily. So so getting something on the screen that we're showing students, we're pretty well versed with that. We're doing educational videos, but I thought turning the whole communication back and forth on its head was showing students that say, hey, Mr. Weisenfeld, I'm not seeing what you think I should be seeing for this assignment. And so I'll go in and even log in as them. We have their usernames and passwords. We're a Microsoft district. So their Office 365, and then I can log in and say, yeah, you're right. And many's the time I wanted to discount their feedback. And when I logged in as them, sure enough, there was something else going on. So, so that was key. And let me show you how I'm doing subtitles. I open up PowerPoint, and under the slideshow menu in PowerPoint, there is an option for us, for our versions at least, and this is the PowerPoint app, so not the PowerPoint online, but always use subtitles. And then for subtitle settings, another little drop down over here is a subtitle language is Spanish. So we're 78% Spanish speaking, Hispanic in our district. And so that's a pretty good guess, but there's others. But that's a pretty good guess a lot of the times. So I'm speaking and then it's subtitling, and here's how I do it. I have a blank presentation and I press the slideshow start button, F5. And then as I start speaking, it's hard not to get kind of, hypnotized by Spanish of stuff you're saying. Just don't speak Spanish to it because it doesn't know what to do when you do that. So what I've heard from people who know is that this is not that bad. So this is, machine translation, artificial intelligence translation. And I run this in the background of many of my Zooms so that when I'm talking in my classes, this is running. And it's a little bit tricky. So you notice I had to get stuff out of the way so that when I'm showing stuff for a class, I don't overlap the subtitles. But the subtitles don't like background noise, and they don't like other problems. So, okay. Let's see, anything in the chat we need to know? Oh, no, not just Spanish. So let me pick one that I might know so I can see how it's going. So there's German, Greek, Creole. I saw, hi, this is Mr. Weisenfeld. Thanks for coming to class today. Note that you're busy people.
So
That's not bad, but okay.
John,
Get started.
you
Yes,
can
go
only
ahead.
I just have a quick question. You can only do one translation though during the video.
Yes.
If you were going to do it for other students, you would have to do a separate
Yes.
video. Okay.
All right. And then when the slideshow's over, that is in the background. I can just put that away and then we'll go. So here, so here's what else I was talking about in the grade book, right? So the idea that students should just do whatever has the highest points, that's a really big fallacy sometimes. And many of us do standards-based grading where we're kind of focusing on practice and failure is okay up until an assessment. And then it's like, that's a checkpoint. And then with the assessment, you really have more weight on that. And in physics and math, I like to make assessments that have kind of random number generators. That's a whole nother topic. But the idea is when I create a new assessment for them, it is potentially really got different numbers in it for physics, or maybe if it's multiple choice, it has a different order of questions or different order of choices. So they can't just memorize or write down the straight list of questions. Then I do have policies that allow for late work and that don't penalize that, and that allow for multiple retakes on assessments right up to the end. And so it's tricky, right? You're dealing with students that have a very low kind of discouragement threshold, right? And so anything we can do to encourage them and keep them coming back, I've found is fairly helpful. The other thing that I do then is when I get a link like this to a video, and if it's generic enough, I can send it out to a bunch of folks. So I do have videos. Some of you from Pasco know that Weisenfeld has videos, right? I made a bunch of videos.
John, there's a question in the chat about the difference between Microsoft PowerPoint translation and Google translation? Do you find any differences in those?
Yeah, so what I do with Google Translation is sometimes for videos, I will just type what I'm saying and not talk, and then let Google Translate do a transcription kind of as I'm running along. That's another option I found is helpful because sometimes students are in an environment and they can't hear you. So they would like to maybe see exactly what you said and then exactly what a translation would be. I get pretty good reviews from those. So Google Translate transcription. So typing can type pretty fast. So I can type like first click on this and then I do something and then click on this and then I reset it, the text by the side. It seems to, oh, I can walk through that, Tori says. So here's, let's see, I have a shortcut that takes me to Google Translate.
And I would just like add on to John, like,
Go ahead.
you know, it seems a little scary that you can't verify that everything's perfect, but if they're getting the gist of it, that's pretty important.
So I'll type something maybe in Google Translate on my screen and then I'll delete it and then say, so let me show you a little bit in the gradebook. And then it's there and then I'll click on something and then I'll change it. So notice that your grade changes more when you do assignments that are weighted more. So yeah, so every once in a while, since we have a lot of staff that speak Spanish, I'll just kind of take something I wrote in email and just translate it into Spanish and just send it to them and say, hey, do you get the sense of this or not? And they'll reply in Spanish. And then I'll have to click in my Outlook, right? It'll say, oh, do you want me to translate into English? I say, that's fine. So I really think we're, you know, close to being the language barriers are not this huge thing that they have always been, thanks to machine translation. So I'm doing something on one side of my screen, Tori, and then I'm typing and then going back and forth. And it's maybe a little bit slower, the video, and I won't maybe read what I'm typing. I'll just maybe like be kind of typing away. But the idea is it also slows me down a little bit because I've been told I talk pretty fast. And you guys can give me feedback about that, especially in this session. But the point is, when you have these tools at your disposal, let's video and automatic translation and showing students, like taking back the curtain, like what is with your grade? Like, how does it work? Like, do you know? Because some students, if they are getting bad grades and they're in high school, you have to ask if they've ever learned how to do school in the sense of managing their grades very well, because I think a lot of them maybe still could learn something. So I'm going to kind of shut up and maybe just let people shoot stuff at me and handle stuff in the chat if that's okay. I think we're about 5 or 6 minutes from the end of this half-hour session. So
you have some confirmations in the chat box. Shannon agrees and kind of validates your reasoning around video and the use of video. It's thank you, Shannon, for sharing that.
John, do you want to quit sharing your screen so we can
yeah,
kind of see everybody? And then if they have questions.
Sounds good.
If you'd like to put it in the chat or unmute, you're welcome to unmute and ask John another question. He's like $1 million man. He doesn't get paid much for the hour, but we got him here today for you. So if you have a moment to ask a question, this would be the time.
I think the piece about really like, because I have a middle school child that is struggling in classes, and that piece about thinking about the weighted grades because she got so overwhelmed, like where do I start? So that piece is huge for me as a parent.
Just the timing too, this presentation came up. We are really close to the end of our second trimester or trimester school. And there is a lot of despair and hopelessness out there. And so I have, for the first time ever in my 8 years of teaching, so not quite a decade, but the point is I've gone and deleted assignments. I said, look, the kids that know it don't need that assignment from January. They're done. Delete it. And that takes the burden off. The students with good grades still have good grades because that's how percentages work. And it's been really freeing to think about. The trouble is I didn't delete it from Teams. And so they're going back and trying to just like drones work through these Teams assignments. And so I have to figure out a way to, you know, sometimes early on in the term, assignments are just to get them up to speed and thinking about how the class functions. And so that crazy assignment, like, hey, send Mr. Weisenfeld an email. We don't need that anymore, holding down the people that are trying to get to a pass. Like, and that's not technically, you know, that's not the standard, right? For that class. This class is, you know, physics. It's not about sending email, although we do teach technology.
John, we're coming to the end, and I asked John earlier this week to give us an exit activity for you all.
Yeah.
So I have it on the screen, John. That picture reminds me of you as you kind of ponder next steps to support learners. So this is in honor of John Weisenfeld and his approach to supporting learners. So can you talk about that exit?
Yeah, so please, if you've seen something good, we'll get the video to you, or we'll get more information to you.
Yeah.
You have my email? No, maybe not. Let me put it in.
And
the
I was
chat.
gonna say, Mike, maybe you should put your email in the chat in case people have questions later that we could touch back with them.
And
Here's
what
my Zoom link.
What
Here's
we
my
know is
hours.
that, go ahead. John, what we know is that they're going to record this session. We are recording it.
Yeah,
It'll
we
be
are.
posted on Canvas, so that if you want to rewatch some of what John shared to get a look at it again, it's available on Canvas. Will be showing up here in that Canvas hub that you've been invited to.
Thank you.
So thank you for taking time. We're going to give you a minute or two to transition to your next session. But thank you for, Tori, you have a question? Or?
Yeah, so fast. I'll go so quickly. There was a question in the chat and I was with that learner. How do you check if the students saw the video? I use Loom and I can see how many students viewed the video. I can password protect the video and see who's done it. But do you have a different, faster, better magic word that they reply with way so that we can see that the kids have seen our efforts?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
I can look at that link and maybe see if somebody's clicked it. But that's
Okay.
like you said, is you got to do some research.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mike, could you put the link to the agenda back in just in case people don't have it handy so they can get into their next Zoom?
Yes.
It's a lot of navigating.
There's a couple of different screens going on. So.
One, two here. Let's see here.
I think I found it finally.
Got it?
Yeah, here is the link to.
Beat me to it. There were three. That's Lori.
Yeah. Well, all of us got it. Thank you, Lori.
But Lori won that one, that's for sure. The chat don't lie, right? The record is there. We saw who did it. All
Thank
right.
you, John, so much for sharing
Enjoy
everything.
the rest of your sessions. We'll see you guys on the Red Web.
All right, thanks.
Stop recording.